everyone, welcome back to our channel. We've got another exciting video for you, continuing our discussion series with hi-fi industry experts. If you haven't already, check out our interview with Technique's Bill Voss, which is linked in the description below, and give that a watch. Today, I'm joined by EveAnna Manley, co-founder, CEO, president, and girl boss of Manley Labs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me today.
I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about the Oasis Phono Preamp. Drew just had a conversation with her that you can check out as well, where they discuss the 300B Neo Classic. So I just want to start by acknowledging your history with Manley Labs, because it wasn't until I did some digging that I learned that you kind of started from the ground up, really.
I did. I was still in college when I joined the first company, which was Vacuum Tube Logic of America. And that was David and Luke Manley. And I was like 20 or 21 years old, still in college, took a break out of school, drove out to the West Coast, met them, started working on the production line, learning how to solder printed circuit boards and screw amplifiers together and wire them up. And then later, I started learning more technical things after that. But that first couple months, I was on the ground floor, making tea for David and screwing amplifiers together.
Did you always have a love for audio? Kind of, how did you stumble into doing that?
Yeah, well, I was a big old band geek in school, and I was really into music. I was studying music in college, and I also very much liked physics as well. I took a whole year of college physics, for instance, and I also studied a lot of art when I was in high school as well. So electronics, I didn't realize it at the time, but for me, it's really the perfect combination of using my artistic skills and musicality. It's just a great blending of all those interests that I have, and electronics is a great career for music and art.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to ask you. Being somebody who started working with their hands in the production line, and based on your background today, you haven't strayed from that in any means, which is always great to see. What would you say to young professionals who maybe they're getting their start in the industry, they're working in the production line, maybe they've got some ideas, would love to build their own gear one day, kind of how they could get to that point?
Yeah, I think, you've got to network, you've got to find somewhere to get your foot in the door. And if you can't do that professionally quite yet, there are so many electronics kits companies out there where you can buy the parts and assemble them yourself. And in order to learn how to solder, or pretty much how to do anything, I tell you, I attend the University of YouTube about every day. I'm always learning something on YouTube. So, from basic skills to learning how to program an Arduino or something, you can totally do a deep dive into that online these days. It's a lot easier than before we had the internet. We had to read these book things.
Yeah, the books for dummies.
Exactly. So, these days there's so many resources out there to be able to learn about electronics. But, if you can get your foot in the door at some manufacturing company or find a mentor, even an old school TV repair person, it'd be that you get exposed to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And funny enough for me, I have a professional career as a journalist, and out of college, I would have thought that I would have continued to write for newspapers, magazines, TV. Would have never thought that I would have stumbled into the hi-fi audio industry, but it really just comes back to that love of music. That was just one of those things that I always loved, and I always watched my dad with the Denon sound systems. Everything was look, don't touch. Please don't adjust the settings. I've got it preset to the way I like it. So I've always been immersed in the world, and it's always great to see other women in the professional audio industry as well.
Yeah, there's still a small percentage of us here, but it's always growing, and there are some really wonderful resources these days in the industry to help mentor and foster young girls that want to get into the audio business, such as, Sound Girls or WHAM or WIM, or there are a lot of organizations that are really focused on bringing more young women into the industry.
Yeah, and that's always great to find an opportunity to connect and network. So speaking a little bit on the Manley Labs factory, I watched some videos from your YouTube channel, and there's lots of factory tours out there. You're in one of the rooms right now. How important is it to you to be one of the, I say select, because it's not as many as we would like these days, hi-fi companies to be manufacturing in the USA?
Yeah, well, I've always considered it my patriotic duty, if you will, to do what I do, which is manufacture in America. We have American workers, and they have raised their families here. They've bought houses here. They grow the local tax base here. They pay for the schools and the roads and so on. But it's not just my 30 folks here. It's also all the support industry locally. So our, people that make these faceplates or the powder coaters or the anodizers. So there are a lot of support industries and suppliers around us that we support by buying their services and products, and then their employees are growing up here in Southern California and supporting their families and building our local tax base, which yeah. So that, I think, American manufacturing, it is important to me. We've resisted, just throwing everything overseas to get made less expensively. It's a balance though, because people complain about prices rising and so on, and my employees complain about their salaries being too low. So it's all a balance. We have to grow it all together. But integrity of manufacturing is like what's really important to me. And having this facility here, we keep an eye on things. We got very specialized processes, how we build things, how we pre-test things, how we match and batch and try to get, really high tolerances from analog products. For instance, the transformer department here, this is a real luxury to be able to design and wind and build all of our audio transformers right here.
Yeah.
And the same guy, Joe, who's in there right now, winding transformers, he's been doing this for over 25 years and off the same drawing. So like that transformer that we wound in 2002, if for some reason it failed, you could buy the exact same part wound by the exact same guy today. You know what I mean? So that kind of consistency and knowing that every part has always been made the same by the same guy on the same machine with the same materials, that kind of consistency is hard to beat.
Yeah, it really is, because honestly, you can just make a product any which way and slap your name on it, and that's one thing. But to hear that, from design to engineers to technicians to conceptualization, everything is done in-house with craftsmanship and care. What does a typical day at Manley Labs look like if, it's a full house over there?
It is. So the first guy to show up in the morning, that's Saulo. Now, he joined me in 1989 back at the first vacuum tube logic factory, I think 3 months after I joined there. So we've been working together since 1989. That's insane. Wow. So by the way, he finally got his American citizenship just a few years ago, I think a year or two ago, and he's voting next week.
Wow, congrats.
So
that's great to hear.
Good on Saulo. So he opens up usually at 4 in the morning or something like that. I am not here at 4 in the morning. Don't worry. The other employees, the assembly team, and the metal shop workers, and Joe in the transformer department, quality control techs downstairs, and our customer service guy Chris. Everyone filters in, sometime between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. say, and we have a very mature workforce. Folks have been with us for decades sometimes. It's really nice to have everyone mature people working. We don't need to babysit people or remind people to stop goofing off. Everyone takes their work very seriously, and they focus on their day here to, every day. And that's another reason we have a very consistent product as well.
Yeah.
So the engineers, they're up here as well, upstairs at the factory here. They filter in sometime around 7 or 8 a.m. And we're always working on a whole lot of products at one time. For those of us that are not at the factory every day, we've got various Google Meets that we have throughout the week, so we get in front of each other's faces several times a week. All the teams meet together so that we're all working together as teams.
Yeah, and that's really nice that everything, for as much as you can, is done under one roof, face-to-face. We all work face-to-face here in the office, and you can't beat face-to-face, like, teamwork collaboration, especially when you're making products and stuff, and everybody's coming together for a larger idea.
That said, I can give COVID crisis one compliment for teaching us how to video conference better.
Very true. Very true. It did take quite a bit of setup on our end, though, before we got going. So there's still quirks. So I would love to dive right into the Oasis. It is fairly new product that you guys have launched. Prior to the Oasis, I imagine that everybody is familiar with the infamous Chinook, which was Manley Labs Phono Preamp for quite some time. With the success of it and kind of the cult-like following that it gained, were you nervous about launching the Oasis? Was it one of those situations where you're like, I've got to check and triple check and check to make sure everything's right?
Well, we built a prototype first in a Chinook chassis and replaced we had this new power supply called Manley Power that was designed for us by Bruno Putzis, who's, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a worldwide expert on switch mode power supply design and all sorts of audio engineering topics. He's one of my favorite engineers on the planet, and I was lucky enough to become friends with him and get him to design for us this thing. Whoops, what's going on here? Okay, that's the heat sink and thermal coupling there, and here's the backside of the board, and there it is. This is a Manley Power module. So this is a switch mode power supply, and just yesterday I was answering someone's question on YouTube. They were like, oh, no way am I using a switch mode power supply. Whoa. And so yeah, let me tell you, you get the first step to a successful, good sounding power supply design is to get the best person in the world to design it for you. That's step number one. Okay, so then he sent it to us. Then we took a Chinook, took 2 Chinooks, and modified one to use this power supply. And then I took both those Chinooks, one with the linear supply and one with the switch mode power supply, took them down to my buddy Pete Lyman's studio in LA when he was out here, and we listened to records he had cut. It was pretty awesome. So he was hyper familiar with not just the songs, but how that record really should sound, right?
Yeah. As close to the pure sound as possible, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the mastering studio where the sound of the product happens, right?
Yeah.
So we were listening, blind listening test. We didn't know which one we were switching in or out at any given time. And the two of us listened in the studio, and holy cow, we heard it every time. And it's like, oh, I like that one. Listen to the top end. Oh, yeah. It was just a lot more open on the top end. And then it was really quiet, too. Like, there's zero hum intrusion anymore with the Manley power supplies.
Yeah, and that's a very, very hard thing to do that everybody strives for.
Yeah, because why is that? Because it's not operating at 50 or 60 hertz in America, 50 overseas. It's working at 132 kilohertz or something like that, far above what we can hear. So there's no galvanic infection of a big power transformer, getting into the chassis and just having this low-level hum that you just can't escape. So really proud of that. But that's how the Oasis started, was with this power supply. And we picked it every time, and we have not gone back since. Like, every product that we can older product design that we can retrofit this puppy into, we've been doing it. So for instance, all our microphones, our Manley Vox box, the Absolute headphone amplifier that's driven by Manley Power. So we've shipped, thousands and thousands of these things since 2014. They've proven reliable, easy to service if they happen to fail, and they work all over the world. You don't have to change voltages when you move or so on.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to ask, and I found that to be unique. I feel like maybe that's not something that a lot of manufacturers are kind of thinking about. Somebody taking it internationally with them. How did you did you come across that naturally, or was that an intentional aspect of design for you?
Well, from the beginning, I remember, seeing David and Luke Manley back at the old VTL company, really focused on export sales. And even today, we are exporting about half of our output year after year after year. I travel around the world visiting all our importers everywhere. And, so I've been exposed to a lot of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Having to stock different voltages for different countries is a major source of waste in an electronics manufacturing company like this. Some parts we have to have different power transformers for different voltages. Others we can reconfigure by going series and parallel configurations.
Mm-hmm.
For Japan, linear power transformer, you have to have another 100-volt winding just for Japan. All this stuff is a pain in the neck, because that means you have to stock all the different parts. For finished goods, if they're boxed up and maybe you didn't build enough 230-volt units and now you've got to pull one out of stock and reconfigure it.
Yeah.
Or, we have to just double everything that we're building just to accommodate the variety, right? So, that was one of the big things I mandated with the design call out for this power supply was it has to have an auto-sensing input voltage where it can work anywhere in the world. And that saves us so much time and money and resources, even just storage space, that these power supplies work all over the world. And it helps us keep our costs down because we're trying to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super great to hear. And hopefully others will hear that and maybe take that idea and run with it.
No.
How has the reaction been from the community for the Oasis? Have you seen, a lot of people saying, "Oh, I had the Chinook, I loved it," or a lot of new customers getting excited about it?
Yeah, I've got a couple people I've been in touch with that have had the Chinooks and have upgraded to the Oasis, and they're super happy with their investment and that they made the change. They can hear that it's a small difference, but and maybe if you hear it today and you come back in a week, you maybe wouldn't remember it all, or maybe you would. But
yeah.
it is a true upgrade, and also for convenience in the back, like getting the gain switches off the motherboard inside the unit, and we put those on dip switches on the back, so that's a little more convenient than the original Chinook was.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you was, what were just some of the, aside from the new power, what were some of the changes that you guys made with the Oasis?
Yeah, so power supply, we talked about that exhaustively. Here's a board from one of these Oasis right here. You can see on the back here, these are the dip switches right there that affect the gain, and then these are the loading dip switches like the Chinook, which were also on the back plane. Improvements there are some layout improvements that we have done, definitely. The audio circuit is for sure the same as the Chinook. Like everything that was Chinooky in here is still in this unit. The gain switching, we've got 4 positions of switching now, and this matrix right here is what does that. You're not listening to these op amps here, don't worry. This is where the switching for the gain happens. So these are driving the relays over here that are just switching the value of the resistor that's living underneath the JFET that's underneath the vacuum tube. So
Okay.
that's how that's done. But so there's 4 gain positions and all the loading positions and so on. But it's we improved the efficiency of the build by virtue of that Manley power supply. That it plugs in a lot easier. Importantly, with this unit, this chassis is a big upgrade over the Chinook. I know I took a little bit of heat for, not making as luxurious a chassis as we could have with the Chinook. Again, at the time, we're trying to keep the price down, but now we've got this beautiful chassis. I've always wanted to do this large radius top cover like this. It just feels really beautiful. It's very long. It's longer than the board. Why is this? Is because there are 3 other Manley hi-fi preamplifiers that will follow the Oasis that will also share this same chassis. So we will, gain efficiency by having one chassis fits 4 products. That's important too. But yeah, it's a really lovely build. It's a lot more substantial, and I think audiophile people really, they respect, a really luxurious feel and fit and build quality.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like what comes with luxurious, sometimes there's a very thin line between luxurious and just like gaudy and over the top. So in cases like this, I do think that simplicity is better. Just cleaner, a little more industrial, modern looking. I see that you do have 3 different chassis colors there.
We do. The faceplate can come in the traditional Manley blue. We call this, the anodizers call it pewter gray. We call it Manley blue. And then silver and black. And this inlay, I call it a racetrack. It's an inlay, so it's a metal piece that's inlaid into the mother plate, and it's kind of a cool visual thing.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice touch, and they're beautiful to look at. Going a little bit more into the technology. So, there are so many tube options out there, especially with kind of the gain and popularity right now in the market with vacuum tubes. Trying to decide which variant that you were going to use can be daunting. So was there a particular reason why Manley went with a 6922 over, say, your more universal standard 12AU7 or 12AX7 tube?
Well, the original Steelhead was designed around the 6922, and Mitch chose that tube. It was also commonly available. There's good supply still coming from New Sensor, Electroharmonics, which is an American-owned factory in Russia. So that is the best 6922 made today. So we can get them, and the price is not terrible, and they're very good performers, and I got no problems with that tube. They're real strong, beefy tube, and they sound good.
That's good.
So we're also using them in the Oasis. We're also using 6922 as the output in the white cathode follower.
Okay. Let's see. So, there was a question on your website about using an external step-up transformer. Why would someone want to use that for an MC cartridge with the Oasis or really any other Phono Pre?
Well, a step-up transformer will give you free gain, as it were, depending on the turns ratio of it, but you could amplify the signal, I say with the air quotes, say you could boost the signal by about 20 dB in some cases with some of the step-up transformers. So then that allows you to use less active gain. So in the Oasis, we've got the gain switching goes 45, 50 dBs. Those you would commonly use for an MM cartridge. And then we go 60, 65 dBs of gain that's commonly used for moving coil. If you inject the an external step-up transformer, then you can get away with using the lower gain settings, and lower gain is always going to be lower noise. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Okay, perfect. So currently the Oasis does not have a preamp stage with the resurgence of Final, analog warmth, turntables. Do you see a new iteration for a preamp stage in the future?
Well, yeah. So I was telling y'all about the other 3 preamplifiers we're working on. The next one that will come out will be the Big Daddy. That is the phono stage and the line stage, and they all work together. And you select any input you could select to be in phono input or line input, and that is predicated upon how much gain you selected. So if you selected 10 or 15 dBs of gain, that would by default be a line input, right? If you select 40 to up to 75 dBs of gain, then you're in phono territory there. The big, we're calling that the precision mastering preamplifier. It's phono and line. And then 2 other products coming out in that mastering series. There'll be a line stage and there will be a phono stage. Another more user adjustable, more developed, more features, more expensive phono stage than the Oasis. So those are the next couple products coming out.
Awesome. That'll be exciting. Any one of those 3 in particular that you're most excited for?
The big one, the precision mastering one, we've been working on it for years. So we're just fine-tuning some of the software in there. You're like, software? What are you talking about? Well, there, every parameter that you can control, the input switching, the output switching, the gain levels, the loading on the phono stage, the resistive and capacitive loading, and so on, the balance control, mono, all these features, everything can be controlled by relays, by the encoders on the front panel, or by a physical remote control, or by an app on the phone or web server on the phone. So what's really exciting is getting all this modern technology interfacing with pure vacuum tube technology, so we're blending the old school stuff with the future school stuff. That's really exciting. So you'll be able to sit in your chair and have your phone in your hand and just adjust the capacitive loading of your moving magnet cartridge just like that. You know what I mean? It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that is great. Was that something when you kind of really first started in the industry that you would have ever thought that you would see?
Oh man, when I was first working on the test benches, I was just trying to get the hum out of the units that were coming off the production line. I was just putting out fires for so many years, but I've always been, when I got my first computer of my own in the early 90s, I got nerdy with the computer. I learned DOS. I've dipped my toes into various programming activities over the years within the computer, and I've really been seeking all this kind of connectivity between an easy GUI, a graphic user interface to control very, very high-end audiophile equipment, that is built with, all tubes, for instance. We're not cheating. There's no op-amp sneaking in there, that kind of thing. So to blend that old and new world, I guess I've been sort of heading towards it all these years, and I'm glad we're almost there.
Yeah. So who is the Oasis for?
The Oasis is, there's a couple other phono stages that are right around the same price as this one. One of them that's also built in Southern California, it's $2 less expensive than this one. But for $2 with your Oasis, you get a faceplate. You get a beautiful faceplate.
And Manley Power.
And you get Manley Power, that this thing will work all over the world. And you get, seriously, 20 dBs lower noise floor. And that is a seriously kick-ass claim.
Yeah,
so
that's worth more than $2.
that's worth all of that $2 for sure. So it's a very quiet unit. And then there's another phono stage I was reading about the other day that has a little more provision to adjust your loading and stuff from the faceplate. That unit is not built in America, so that is a factor for some people. This unit is fully built in America, as you know, and it's flexible. Like, you can use different cartridges with it. It's got, enough gain to run most anything. And you can set up all the loading you want. There's even a custom loading position. I failed to mention that before. Let's see, where are we? Right here and right here, left and right, there's provision. Like if you have a Soundsmith cartridge and it wants, say, 1,000 ohm load, you can load in those resistors here and load it with whatever value you'd like. So we are flexible, but it's not meant for somebody who's changing their system like every 6 months, right? You could set this thing up, leave it in your shelf, enjoy it every day. It will hopefully outlast all of us. And you're not fussing with your gear all the time. You know what I mean? That's what this unit's for. The other units, where the new one that's coming out, or the Steelhead, those have multiple inputs and more gain settings and front panel adjustability and so on. If you're futzing with your gear all the time and you're changing cartridges all the time, or you've got 3 arms on your turntable, you'll want to get one of the other units.
Yeah, and I'm excited for those to come out, and that's kind of a nice option for 2 people to have, because you really do kind of get like 2 types of audiophiles. You get those who they love to tinker, they're constantly trading in old gear for new gear, really trying to like re-optimize their signal chain and their setup. And then yes, you do have the other types of people where it's like, I've got my end game pieces and I'm good for now, so something better comes along.
Yeah, this is no nonsense audiophilia right here. There's no baloney. It gives you straight, clean gain. There's not a whole lot of external color imparted into the signal. It's pretty accurate to what should be coming off your record.
Yeah, and that's what exactly what we're trying to recreate with the vinyl. So I have one final question for you. And I feel like you kind of touched on this a little bit and stuff. But as a fellow creator and tinkerer, if you will, who's kind of always busy cooking in the kitchen, and I can tell that you're the same way, as a creative, kind of what sparks inspiration for you for new technologies and designs and units, and how do you constantly kind of keep that wheel turning?
Yeah, like I talk about all the time now, I'm on YouTube, like learning stuff all the time, and I think it was like after during COVID times, like I audited a whole Arduino course on YouTube and, realized how easy it is to control things remotely and so on. So, and then to be able to, get that on your phone where you can control something from your phone. That's where I've been getting inspiration from. Like, let's get into the future already. And, yes, we use, technology that's over 100 years old, and we use technology that's, 50 years old. And we're, all in all, I want to use technology that's going to be working 50 years from now as well. So,
yeah, and it's already proved itself. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So I get inspiration just by my own autodidactic behavior.
Well, EveAnna, it has been a pleasure speaking with you, learning about Manley Labs, history, kind of your start in the audio world, about the Oasis, and I'm very excited to see what new products that you guys have coming out soon, and always look forward to any further future discussions that you want to have. Once those products get released, definitely want to have you back on here to talk some more about them.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me today.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning into this YouTube video. As always, if you could go ahead and hit that bell, subscribe so you don't miss any of these future discussions, and give us a like. And if you have any comments for EveAnna about Manley, about the Oasis, drop a comment below. You never know, she might reply. Thank you so much for watching.